Mr. Kip Sorensen, what's up, man? Good to see you representing that curveball hat today.
Yeah, dude, this is my favorite for sure.
But it's not flat billed, so what's the problem?
Yeah, but it's just the brown, the leather on the black, right? It's
Do you remember how riled up people got about flat brim versus curved brim? Like how pissed off they would get?
you say it as though it's past tense. I'm sure if we just start talking about it again,
We should. I mean,
people
I'd
still
sell
get
more
riled
hats.
up.
Well, that's actually the funny thing I was thinking about this weekend with social media because I was watching the UFC fights. Did you watch the fights, by the way?
Holy
Crazy,
crap.
crazy night.
Holy crap. Yeah.
And
Nuts.
everybody was all riled up about Jake Paul and DC getting
DC
after
getting his
it.
face. I love it.
And I love it too. I think it's funny, but it's also kind of sad. It's sad that, and I don't think it's anything new. It's probably old as man himself that we get so riled up about the dumbest shit.
Oh, that's consuming us. You know,
Well,
the
you think,
drama
you
between
have,
two people you don't know consumes you a
right.
little bit.
Well, and you have individuals who are trying to put like real value out into the world, and all you hear is crickets. And then have dumbasses who are just making a bunch of noise, spouting off, running their mouths, jack and jaw. And that's where all of the attention goes. There's a lesson there to be learned, especially when it comes to marketing.
Yeah.
But then also it's an
Human
indictment
behavior.
against who we are as humans. It's
Yeah.
so pathetic.
Yeah. Entertainment wins. Yeah. If it's entertaining, it's
And I
like,
think there's value to being entertained. I'm not saying there isn't. There's value, of course, to comedy and just being able to unplug. But when it consumes us to the point where we won't read good books, we won't listen to good podcasts, we won't go to the gym, we won't eat right, we won't worry about our own physical and mental health. We just want to be entertained all the time. That's a problem, man. That's a problem.
yeah, it's a total problem.
I mean,
Favorite
even just
fight
think
from the
about
weekend. Oh, go ahead.
favorite fight. I mean, watching Rose knock what's her name,
Dude.
Zhang out.
Yeah.
Holy cow! The first
Thug
round.
Rose, man. She's
And
awesome.
she is so unassuming, so
And
unassuming.
humble. Yeah, I love her.
And you see her, you're like, this gal, who's this? And she's a killer.
Yeah.
But of course, Usman, man, that overhand right was the most violent. I think probably it's safe to say the most violent, well executed punch that I have seen in UFC.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a guy get knocked out and his head bounce off like the guy's shoulder on the way down.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like
he went all the way
pong.
through.
Yeah.
And I watched that because the clips come up on Instagram. I saw the fights, but I watched it on Instagram over and over again, and I'm like, damn, that is violent. That is a dangerous, dangerous man right there. Holy cow,
for sure.
I figured it would go that way. I didn't think it would play out like that though.
Yeah.
But Usman, like I knew Usman. I was pretty confident Usman would win that fight.
Agreed. Me too.
But holy cow. And then what about Weideman with his leg? What are the odds that he?
I know. I was
Silva did that to him.
Same thing.
And he did that to who was he fighting?
I don't remember.
Hall.
Yeah. And broke his leg the same way Silva broke his leg on him. I'm like, dude.
Hall was a class act on that though. Did you see the post-fight interview?
Yeah. Yeah.
The way that he approached that, man, it was awesome. It was really touching, but it was very cool the way that he honored Chris. He acknowledged his family. He said, wherever I am in the rankings, if and when you come back, because that might be a career-ending injury.
Yeah,
I'll give you a fight wherever it doesn't matter where I am. I'll give you another fight. It was a very classy response to a horrible situation. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that was brutal. And then he kicked and then he stepped back.
Stepped on it. Yeah. And it's funny. You see his face in slow-mo. He doesn't even act like anything got hurt.
Well, it just so happened so quick, right?
Yeah. And he just steps back and then collapses. Yeah.
Well, that's why Trish was like, well, why did he step back? And I'm like, he's been training that kick he's done thousands and thousands of repetitions, and you kick and you get back into position. So he kicked and his body did what he was trained to do. And how would he know that in a fraction of a second, Yeah.
Crazy. Well, and there could be like tons of nerve damage. So maybe it wasn't even painful at the moment. Who knows?
Speaking of nerve damage, the fight before that,
Yeah. Which one was before that one?
I can't remember the guy's name. It's escaping me right now, but he kicked him in the back of the leg and,
Oh, I
and
missed
must have,
this one.
oh dude, is it, I can't even remember who it is. Anyways, the guy kicked him in the back of the leg and hit a nerve. It must have hit a nerve. And his whole leg was just rendered useless. He was stepping on his feet and like tripping, and they called the
Couldn't
fight
handle it.
because
Oof.
it was a nerve. Like he couldn't, it was like his leg was just dangling. It wasn't even functioning. It was wild.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of my favorite fights of all time was Jose Aldo against alpha male guy, California kid. And Aldo just
was it?
Yep, Uriah
Was it
Faber.
Faber?
And
Yeah.
and Aldo just thigh kick. And by the time the fight was over, he's falling over. Like he couldn't stand on it. He was just falling over constantly. And his leg was just brutal. Like
that's going to become more, I mean, it is already, but it's going to become more and more common. And there's those inside and outside low leg kicks are just becoming more and more common.
Look at McGregor.
Yeah.
You know,
holy cow.
He got
it's just the evolution
more or less from a calf kick, constant calf kicks, you know.
It's the evolution of the fight. And so people are going to learn how to defend it. And it's interesting.
It's something else. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, enough about UFC. Should we get into some questions?
Yeah.
I did an AMA on Instagram the other day and I was answering them live, and I probably got through 15 to 18% of the questions. I didn't realize to get bombarded. I like it. I mean, that's what I'm getting what I asked for, which is questions. But I just can't get through them all. So I figured the ones that I couldn't get to, we try to scoop up some of them here on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a little extra, just a couple from Facebook. And then, thank you. I spent 5 hours scrolling through comments, trying to figure out which ones you didn't reply to yet. I was like, come on.
Okay. So let me give you a little hint here, Kip. I should have told you this. I think you can scroll, at least I can on my own. I think you can select by newest comments first. Can you not do that when you're on somebody else's?
Goodness.
Maybe you can't do that when you're on somebody else's. I know that I can look at my own comments on mine by newest. I don't think you can by newest.
The tech guy. Yeah. The tech guy didn't know.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'll check.
My fault.
No, it was fine. It was okay.
All right. Let's go. Rapid fire on Facebook, and then we'll get to the Instagram questions.
Okay. Sounds good. And we're fielding these questions from the Order Man Facebook group. That's facebook.com/group/Order Man. All right. Cody Brown. Are there times you feel less of a man because you don't know how to do something?
No, I don't feel like not knowing how to do something is unmanly. I think what is unmanly is acknowledging you don't know how to do something and then not doing anything about it. Next question.
Like avoiding it. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Trevor Bodie. What are some tactics you guys use for being an asset to your wife when you've had newborns in the house? Thanks for everything that you guys are doing.
Look for things that you could do. Don't ask her. Just acknowledge and recognize what they are and do them. You don't need to ask her, how can I help? If you really want to help and be an asset, look around the house, look at things that need to be cleaned, look at repairs that need to be done, take the other kids off her hands if that's an issue. But acknowledge what needs to be done and do it. Don't ask her what needs to be done. Next question.
John Tarpley. After becoming more self-aware and realizing how much opportunity I have to improve the things I have to change to be good at being a man and a good man, what, in your opinion, is the best ways to help my son adjust to the changes in me as I work to effectively become a better man and help him overcome the bad example I have set for him to this point? I know changing it and living it is the long-term solution, but any ideas on how to use psychology of a 6-year-old boy to instill the knowledge that I am at 44, just knowing and beginning to utilize? I feel like I have set my son up for failure, and I want more than anything to spare him my stupidity. I do not want his failures to be due to my failure, to prepare him for what is to come. Thank you.
Cool. Worthy question, worthy path that you're on. Simple answer right here. Open your mouth and communicate. I think he said he was 6 years old. Being an example is good. And you acknowledge that over the long haul, just being an example and doing it right is the best thing you can do. Sure. Also communicate. Let him know where you've fallen short. Let him know this is how I used to be. This is what I used to do. And here's why I do it this way now. And here's why that's important in our evolution as men, and why how we can get better and how we can improve. So in addition to being an example, open, communicate, be vulnerable. As much as I don't like using that word, tell him where you fell short in the past and why it created problems and what kind of problems it created and why you're correcting your behavior. The more that you align your words with your actions, the better able he, as a 6-year-old, will be able to formulate why all of a sudden dad has changed. You need to connect the dots. Next question.
All right.
Tell us when we're done with Facebook. I want to get to these Instagram ones. So I know these
last
Facebook
one on
ones
Facebook.
have been sitting around for a while. So
Paul Clifton, I don't love my wife. 3 kids together. Why should I continue?
I don't know why. I mean, I can't answer that question for you other than you made a commitment. I would say that's a very valid reason for you to continue to at least work towards it. Can you fall out of love with someone? Yes, but you can also fall back in love with them too. So I hear this a lot. A lot of guys are falling out of love with their wife or vice versa. A wife is falling out of love with their husband. And then I've seen it, not miraculously, but over time, I've seen it change where couples begin to fall in love again. So you owe it to her, you owe it to yourself. And if you have kids in the mix, you owe it to them as well to follow through on your commitments. And we need to become new people in order for that to happen, because she fell out of love, or you fell out of love with her, the person she is right now, but you fell in love with somebody else, right? You fell in love with her when she was 10 years or 15 years younger. What's different between then and now? Probably a rut. The way that you've matured, the thought processes, maybe you've fallen into ruts, both her and you. And there might be some ways that you can get out of those ruts by playing and being spontaneous and going on new adventures together, recommitting to each other, going on date nights, attempting to serve as best you can her. And all of those ways, I think, are valid for falling in love with someone. Yeah. I think it's possible. And you owe it to her flat out. Like you committed. Are you a man of your word or not? And all the guys who are listening, who are divorced or going through separations, this is not necessarily an indictment against you, because I realize there are extenuating circumstances, and I believe there are extenuating circumstances, but only you can answer whether or not you've done everything that you could possibly try and do. Only you can answer that. I can't answer that for you. I can't convince you. It's not even my position to tell you why you should stick around. That's for you to decide. But these are all strategies you can employ to hopefully move things in the right direction.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add, Ryan, is be clear on quote unquote her changing versus your perception of her. You know, I think it's really easy. It's like, oh, I fell in love because of X, and not owning that, like, you might be pigeonholing her or passing judgment, and some of it might be your perception. Like, did you stop learning about who she was? Did you stop being curious about her? You know what I mean? And you've kind of, you know, become stagnant in how you see her, you know? So just make sure that you're owning your perception. Yeah.
It's all perception. Everything that you believe about life is bullshit.
Yeah.
Think about that. Every single thing that you think about the way that the world works, or how your boss behaves, or how your wife is, or your children are, it's all bullshit. It is not objective truth. You're making stories up, positive and negative. You're making stories up. You're using your culture, your experiences, your background to make up stories about circumstances and other people. So when you talk about your perception of her, if you're just making up a story, she doesn't love me, she's not a good wife, she's not doing what she quote unquote should be doing, she doesn't contribute, she doesn't appreciate me. Those are all what I would consider negative perceptions, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to just create some negative perceptions, why not create positive perceptions? So just the other night, I was sitting down, I was watching a TV show, and my wife was in the other room working on her seeds, because she loves to grow her garden in the spring. And so she's got her seedlings, and she's doing that in the house until we can move them outside, until it warms up enough. And I walked by the laundry room, and the room that she does her seedlings in is just right off of the laundry room. So I walked by the laundry room, and I just stopped and stared at her for a minute and just watched her. And I was so intrigued and fascinated. She was so happy, and she didn't even see me. She was so focused and intent, and was giving each little plant so much attention. and she was measuring the water just right. And she was making sure the lights were adjusted up and down. And I was just fascinated and intrigued. And my perception is this is a woman who cares about this deeply, who finds value in this, who has joy in life. Those are all my perceptions. Those are positive perceptions. And who wouldn't appreciate that if that's how they viewed it?
Yeah.
Now, if I walked by and I said, well, how come she's doing that? How come she isn't hanging out with me? How come
you can get vegetables from Walmart, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So
and who alternatively, who would appreciate that if that's the perception that you had?
Yeah.
So you get to make it up. It's everything about your life you're making up. Yeah. Everything about the way that you feel about yourself, the way you feel about others, it's all made up. It's a fairy tale. It's make believe. So just make it the best story possible, one that's going to serve you and other people well, and you'll win.
Yeah. All right. Jumping in Instagram. These are being filtered from Ryan's account at Ryan Michler. That's Michler. Mark Juan, our first question. As a growing man, how do you show your significant other what type of family you want and what values you'd like to instill in your hopeful household?
Showing is a little bit difficult if you don't have that family, but I think open lines of communication, talking about what you would like to do and how you'd like to discipline and where you'd like to live and what the culture of your home would like to be and what your own family was like and what you appreciated about that and what you didn't appreciate about that, and asking her, what did she like about her family and what didn't she like about how her family was raised and what their culture was. And then looking to other people too. I look to a lot of other people, yourself included, where I think, okay, well, here's something that Kip does really well. And here's what Mark does. And I see this guy interact with his wife and I see that man interact with his children. And I point those out. I see it and recognize it myself, but then I also acknowledge it with my wife. Like, hey, did you see that one thing that they did? Or even if it's on Instagram, hey, look at this post. And I might share it with her. Or I might talk with her about it. We're always talking, we're always sharing, we're always looking for examples, and then we try to implement those things. So it's possible. It just takes a little bit more effort. It's very easy to slip into a really comfortable situation where, after work is over, you just sit down and you don't talk about anything meaningful or significant. That's the path of least resistance. But the path of more resistance, but also better, is to open your mouth, to share, to talk about these real issues. And you'll figure it out. You guys will figure it out together because you're talking about it, you're illustrating it, you're looking around, you're sharing and articulating what it looks like. And then as you start to have children, and even before, you'll start to build a culture that mimics what it is you see.
Yeah. I know this is not the question, but like increasing communication, it's interesting how you'll get that as a byproduct of other things. Asia, my wife, she wants to do a marathon. We signed up for a marathon later this year. And so we started distant running on the weekends. Well, we're stuck running together now for, 2+ hours. It's like we address everything that there needs to be addressed now, right?
You guys aren't going hard enough if you can talk to each other.
Yeah. Well, luckily we're not. We're running slow enough that we can chat all day. But do you get what I'm saying? It's like,
of course.
I never even thought about it. And I'm like, actually, this is really great because we're talking through everything, working through schedules. What should we do with this kid? How this makes me frustrated. And we get a run in, so it's, there's ways to create that, right? Maybe not running for everybody, but it's worked out well.
I think you're right. My wife and I went to a neighboring town to go to Home Depot, which is about an hour and a half away from us. We did that this weekend because we had to pick up some stuff, and we all got in the car. Me and my two youngest kids, because the older boys are on vacation.
So Home Depot is an hour and a half away. Holy shit. Yeah. I joke that no one goes to Home Depot once, right? Like the minute I make a trip to Home Depot,
I have local hardware stores for that.
5 trips. So I can't imagine being that far away.
No, I have local hardware stores. We're all on a Saturday. If I'm doing projects around the house, I'm in 3 or 4 times a day for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
We're very much the same on that. So we go down to Home Depot and we get in the car and we pack the 2 youngest kids up. The 2 oldest kids are on vacation. They're traveling with their grandparents. And the first 20 minutes of the drive are just silent because we know each other. We've been together for 17 years. We know each other. We fall into ruts. Like it is what it is. Okay. And so I'm driving quiet. She's sitting there quiet, and it was fine. It's fine. but it took us a little while to get into the swing of things, even though we've been together so long and we believe so much in communication. It took us 20 or 30 minutes before we started talking about goals and aspirations and what's coming up this week and this funny thing we heard. And so if you create the environment for it, then it's going to happen. Sometimes you have to actually manufacture that environment to do it, though, because we all just fall under ruts. Like you said, you're not going to have a conversation like that, but you manufactured it, maybe unintended, but it was manufactured through the run, right? So
yeah, totally. Well, I think that's why Asia likes going on vacations, right? Because that's usually when I open up, but I never want to go on them,
Well, and it probably takes you a day or two. Also,
yeah. Takes the plane ride over, and then takes me a groove to let go of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Cat Perk 25, Mr. Mickler, what is your current biggest fear?
My biggest fear, this is a little different than a lot of people would normally think of. My biggest fear is dying before my kids are out of the house. That's legitimately my biggest fear. That and also being insignificant is a big fear of mine. I want to be significant. I want to be influential. I want to be
regret,
positively.
Wasted life, kind of.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I want to be valuable to people. Like I want their life to be better because I was in it. And that to me is significance, that because I was around, somebody's life was better, maybe this much better, maybe a whole lot better. Maybe it was incalculable, but just better because I was around or had some level of influence in their life. That's important to me. And then to go back to the first thing is I don't want my children to be without me, at least until they're out of the house.
Yeah.
I still don't want to die after that, but like I really don't want it to happen while my kids are at home.
Where do you think that stems from?
Oh, it stems from not having a dad in my life. Yeah, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to not have your dad around and not be able to have meaningful conversations or to ask a significant and important question or to roughhouse and to play. And I know what that's like. I'm intimately familiar with that. And so I don't want my children to experience it. And the only way they would experience that is if I was incapacitated or dead.
Yeah. All right. Chad Winkinson, I have a deep burden for men in our country, and I want to follow your footsteps. What advice do you have?
I mean, I've laid it out pretty well. Just mimic what we do.
Yeah.
We've got a podcast. We've had 350 conversations with some absolutely incredible human beings. We've done a really, really good job at creating a community on social media. We've implemented events. We're talking about real issues. I'm learning to articulate a message. I don't have anything special or unique you already haven't heard, but here's what I would say for anybody, whether you want to do what we're doing here, or you want to get stronger, or you want to improve your jiu-jitsu game, or you want to become a hunter, or you want to be some sort of business tycoon, whatever it is, just look around at the people who are doing what you want to do and do what they do. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Follow what they do. Pay them too for coaching. If they offer coaching, hire them. I've hired countless people to help me in different facets of my life. And there isn't one person that I've hired who I've regretted or that hasn't been an investment where I make more money back than what I spent on having them consult and advise me. So look at what successful people are doing, do what they do, pay them to tell you how to do it, and to shortcut some of these corners that you would normally trip all over if you didn't have somebody telling you where they were, and get after it. It's there. It is all there. You just have to do it.
Well, and maybe you're just being, humble here, but like, I read this question. I'm like, band with us. You know what I mean? Like, share this message, right? If we're on the same page, right, and what we're doing is in line with what you're doing, like what you want to make an impact around, like, join us, band with us, share this message, share the podcast, like, I don't know about you, but like, and it's always interesting because I think we get quite a bit of guys that follow you, Ryan, because they're like, well, I want to be a podcaster and I want to be an influencer in this space. I'm always kind of like, I love what Order Man is doing. I love what we're doing in the Iron Council. I have no plans to recreate it. I'll support it. You know what I mean? Because it's in line with what I'm but with what I think, so I don't know.
I think that's right. I think a lot of people probably think that. Ambition. I'm not going to, no, I don't think it's that. I just think it's maybe a lack of wanting, a desire to do that particular thing.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I know there's hundreds of thousands of men who share what we're doing. They tune into the podcast. They follow us on YouTube and all the social media channels. They get the emails. They buy our merchandise. They come to our events, and they have no ambition whatsoever to do what I'm doing. They have ambition, but not to do this.
Yeah.
And that's fine. If it were me, let's say the roles were reversed, Kip, and I saw what you were doing, I would go out and start my own thing because that's my personality. Yeah. And although, and there was guys that I was following when I started this that I really admired and appreciated and respected what they were doing, but it just wasn't quite right. Art of Manliness is a great example. Brett McKay over at Art of Manliness does a phenomenal job. He's incredible. He was a very early influence in the way that we started Order of Man and why I wanted to start what we were doing here. But there was some things that he was doing, not that I disagreed with, but that I just didn't feel like were the right path for me. So I could have done could have done different. Ahead, I'm not even going to say better, but could have done. Yeah. I'm not even going to say could have done different. I'm just going to say that he was going down this path, and for part of the path we were walking together, and then we came to a fork in the road, and he goes this way, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I'm not really interested in that path. I'm going to actually go down this one. And so I started my own thing. And then I found other people who were doing things that are similar. I'm like, well, I like that. I don't like this. I like this. Take this, add this, tweak this, adjust this. And it becomes your own thing. But for me and my personality and my desires, starting my own organization was important to me. And it's done very, very well. So those guys who tune in and they want to do something similar, I say, yeah, do that. Don't steal what we're doing, but take the things that are working well, mimic them, make them your own, do it in your own voice, in your own unique way, and you'll have a lot more success than doing it my way. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. All right. Next question. Souls in War. Do you have plans to get Joe Rogan on the podcast or vice versa? I'm sure Joe Rogan's not on the radar for Mr. Mickler.
I don't even know.
Who's that?
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
Is he who?
You know what? Stupid question. Yeah. Next question.
Yeah, of course. I would love to have Joe Rogan on the podcast. Of course, I'd love to go on his podcast. And we're working different angles and different connections and making requests and doing that with not just Joe Rogan, but Jordan Peterson and Mike Rowe and hundreds of other men who we've got on our radar. Yeah. And some of it's going to work and some of it isn't. And in the meantime, we're just going to put our head down and go to work and become more influential. And by the way, to your point earlier about sharing this message, guys, this is actually the reason. This is part of the reason. This is one of the reasons I need you to share. Because the more that you share, not only is it going to be more visible for other people, and you're going to be able to give other men in your life who are important to you information that they need to thrive, but the more influence and authority and credibility that we have with more of you, the more weight we have to throw around when it comes to securing podcast guests like Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, some of these heavy hitters. It's unfortunate it is that way, but I understand. You take a guy like Rogan or Peterson or Mike Rowe, they're busy. They've got their own things they've got requests coming out of every place. It's like,
everyone wants them on their podcast.
Right. Yeah. So how do we cut through that? We become, like Cal Newport would say, so good they can't ignore you. And so we're going to work our angles to get these great guests on the podcast and connect with these guys. And also we're going to become so good at what we're doing that at some point, whether it's in the next 6 months or the next 6 years, they can no longer ignore us and are beating down the door to come on to our podcast and be part of what we're doing. But in order for that to happen, we need hundreds of thousands of men who are already connected with what we're doing, sharing with other individuals. So hundreds of thousands turn into millions, tens of millions. And then how can society ignore us? I want to take this message of masculinity, and I see it so often. Men will use the term redefine masculinity. I'm not going to redefine it. I'm going to reestablish it. It's already been redefined by pop culture. I'm going to reestablish it.
That's not working out well.
It's not working out well. So we're going to reestablish it. And I'm going to take this message to the masses, to the mainstream. Because right now, this whole concept of masculinity and traditional masculinity and the nuclear family, a lot of that is kind of underground, and it's only with a certain amount of people. And I want to take that message to the masses. I want it to be mainstream. I want Order of Man to be a mainstream name, just like the Joe Rogan Experience is a mainstream name. And it's going to take the work that Kip, you and I are doing here, and of course, dozens and hundreds of other guys who are actually doing work here with us. And it's going to take the hundreds of thousands of men to share it, to repost it, to talk about it, to send somebody a link. That's what it's going to take. So that's your part. We're doing our part. You do your part. Together, we'll make some of this stuff happen.
Stant 63. If you could only have one book to read and study other than the Bible, what would it be?
The Bible is there's so much depth to the Bible.
Yeah, I think that's why I threw it out for you.
It's a book of books. It's not just a book, it's a book of books. So there's so much depth there. I mean, there's the classics like As a Man Thinketh is one. Yeah. Wild at Heart is another one. Iron John by Robert Bly is another one. I think it'd probably be between one of those three. I don't know if you have suggestions. If you could only have one book to study for the rest of your life. That's an interesting question. So if you guys have suggestions, let me know.
I think about the book I've read the most over and over.
What is it?
As a Man Thinketh is probably the book I've read the most.
Yeah, I think it's just hard to say that because
that's
all you're going to read for your life.
Yeah, it's just so profound.
It's profound, and it changes, and you see and hear different things, and you hear them in different ways based on where you are in life.
Yeah.
So that one would definitely be at the top of my list. I would say it's probably that or Wild at Heart.
You read those?
Yeah. Sovereignty. I would read Sovereignty.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Over and over again.
They're so good. They're so good. So many layers to them. This guy's incredible. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I love it. All right. Vok Noah, when you first read Man in the Arena, how did you interpret it and apply it into your life?
I'm not real philosophical by nature. I'm very pragmatic, very practical.
Yeah.
So I look at it and just say, okay, just go to work. I mean, I've got it right here. It's on my wall right here. So how did I interpret it? I guess I just thought, okay, well, the guy actually doing it is the guy that really counts. So get your ass to work. The end.
Yeah.
I never really gave it much more thought than that. So I'm not what I would consider an intellectual or deeply philosophical. Like I said, I'm more pragmatic or practical. So, all right, it's not the critic who counts. It's the one in the arena. So, okay, well, I want to count. I just told you I want to be influential. I want to be significant. I told you that's what I wanted to do. So get in the arena, go to work. Don't worry about what the critics say. Don't worry about failing and falling short. That stuff's going to happen from time to time, but it's more important that you get up there and you actually swing the bat. So I took it very literally. No, I shouldn't say literally because we're not getting in the arena actually, but I took it from more of a pragmatic approach, a practical application of it.
Yeah. All right. Ebbot, how much time do you spend on social media platforms a day? What percentage is pleasure and how much time for your business?
It's all business. I actually don't enjoy being on social media because it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the entertainment and the circuses. And I get on this thing and I'm like, this is so silly. Like, this is retarded. I shouldn't be on this thing right now. Why are we doing this? So when I'm on here, it's all business related. I'm probably on there 3 to 4 hours a day.
3 to 4 business purpose only.
Yeah. With Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I mean, I could pull it up here on my device. I know it shows it. I don't know where it is, but it's probably 3 to 4 hours a day. That wouldn't surprise me if it was that. And it's all business related. I'm sending messages. I'm responding to messages. I'm looking for other people that we need to have on the podcast or following along with what they're doing to see how it might influence what we're doing. I'm on there quite a bit because this is where it lies. This is where the work lies. And this is where the people are too. So I want to connect with the people. Here they are. Connect with them.
Jake from State Farm.
Oh yeah. Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Glad to see Jake here.
State Farm.
Is that his username?
Yeah, Jake underscore from underscore State Farm.
Oh, you know it's fake because they're underscores.
But I'm sure it's the same Jake. I'm sure.
Oh
it's
yeah,
the same
I'm
Jake.
sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Is he verified? That's what really counts. As long as he's verified.
You know, I didn't copy the little badge thing.
It's okay.
Into my document here.
I guess we can take his question, even if he isn't verified.
Perception.
Social media hasn't told us he's important, but I guess we can still take his question.
Perception is it's Jake from State Farm.
All right.
What do you think the next 3 to 5 years looks like for America if we keep down this road our nation is currently on?
Oh, well, you're going to see more red tape. You're going to see more restrictions. You're going to be seeing more lockdowns. You're going to be seeing more legislation passed. You're going to see more divisiveness. You're going to see people being pitted against each other. You're going to see crime go up, drug use go up, fatherless homes go down. We know exactly where it's going to go, and it's atrocious. It's horrendous. We're going to see those in power continue to enact laws and rules and regulations to solidify and consolidate their power. We know exactly where this goes. It's as old as man himself. And so unless we learn to step up, to speak up, to reject these ideologies of the doctrine of popular culture, this is exactly where we're going to go. And it's going to be dangerous. We're not going to be able to exercise freedoms the way that we are today. We're going to be manipulated and strong-armed and coerced. We're going to lose First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, and it's going to become unrecognizable as a country. It's going to happen over time and gradually. You know, a lot of people say, oh, calm down, Joe Biden or whoever is in office are not trying to take your firearms. No, they're not trying to take our firearms necessarily, because if they just came out and said, hey, we're going to abolish the Second Amendment, everybody would be onto the game and we'd be able to reject that easily and decisively. But it's going to be little things like legislation and ban these modifications and ban these upgrades. And we're going to tax them differently. And we're going to charge you a tax. And then we're going to create a national firearms registry. And so it's little by little, so little that we don't even acknowledge it, or we actually interpret it as being a good thing. And that's how it's going to happen. We're going to be so grateful that our rights have been stripped away from us because it's in the name of safety and, and this utopian society, and people will be happier. People will be better. And
Big Brother will take care of us.
The path that we go down leads directly to authoritarianism, communism. That's the path. Like, it is the path. There's no way around it. So we need to reject it at every turn. We need to be hyper vigilant and realize that the freedoms that we enjoy carry some inherent risk. We have to be okay with that as individuals. We have to be okay with some level of risk and personal responsibility, by the way, if we are to maintain our individual rights.
Yeah, I'm glad that you added that last part, because I think at the center of this is victimhood. It is me not taking responsibility for things and seeking someone else to take care of it for me.
Well, and the government knows that.
Yeah.
Right. So they play to the ignorant. They play to the poor. They play to the impoverished, and they champion those people by telling them they're victims. The world is out to get them.
We can take care of
everything's wrong, and we are your savior. But they don't play to
you need us. You can't do this on your own. Yeah.
Right. But they don't play to intelligent people. They don't play to the strong. They don't play to the sovereign, because they know those people can't be influenced.
Yeah.
But if you get 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% of the people who believe themselves victims at the hands of the other 20 to 30% of the individuals, like at some point the scales are going to tip. They're tipping now.
Yeah. And then they demonize the strong, the intelligent, and everyone else, or not, oh, well, you must not care then, right? If you're not in line with us, Well,
we're seeing that with police officers right now.
Yeah.
There's a whole community that is being told that police officers hate them. There's systematic procedures and policies in place that are designed to victimize these individuals. This is what we see. And that story is being repeated by the media. When I say the government, I'm talking about the highest echelons of government. The president and the vice president of the United States are perpetuating this narrative. So you have the media, you have the government telling these individuals that police officers are systematically targeting and discriminating against them. This story is being played out over and over and over again. And I made a post on Twitter the other day. I said, just because somebody repeats something over and over and over again doesn't make it true, but the media and the government know that, and they prey on individuals who don't understand that.
Yeah, totally.
It's the same thing with the mask thing. You can hear it over and over and over and over again, and eventually you're like, oh, I guess masks are pretty important.
Yeah. Despite the fact that a Stanford study comes out and says there's negative health benefits to it. Well, let's not pause and reshape the narrative. Let's just keep bulldozing forward with whatever, narrative we've already created. I mean, even this last thing with the police officers, it was crazy how quick everyone was, another racist police officer, despite the fact that, in my opinion, the guy's a freaking hero and
not in your opinion,
being stabbed.
Objectively, he is a hero.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's horrible. And then we hear things like, well, trust the science. Come on, man. Trust the science. What science? What are you referring to? Like, you can't just say trust the science and then not give me any science to look at.
The numbers. Yeah.
You say trust the science. Tell me what science. Oh, well, Fauci. Okay, well, show me what science he's looking at.
Yeah.
Every time the CDC, for example, makes a case against lockdowns and restrictions, the presidency gets involved, Fauci gets involved, and then they reverse it like 24 hours later. It's like, well, why did you reverse it? Well, the science. Show me. No, just trust it. Just trust this. No, I don't trust it. I don't trust you. There's like 3 people in my life that I trust who, if they said something, I'm like 99% sure they're telling me the truth. And everybody else, I don't totally trust. Yeah. There's very few institutions. There's very few people out there. Okay, show me. Well, you don't trust me? No, I don't. Show me.
Or it's not even trust. I think sometimes it's like, well, let me understand how you're interpreting that information, because that's the other thing. Like
you're too kind.
I'm giving him too much credit, but
you're too kind.
Like even with me, like you and I can interpret things differently, right? And you should still say, "Show me the data, Kip," because I want to understand it.
I think that's a valid thing to
and
say.
Let me interpret it myself. But
yeah, I think you're being too kind. I think you're coming from the position of like, oh, let me understand this, and maybe they're just ignorant about it. No, I actually think they're not ignorant about it, and they're being deceitful. There's deceit, like deliberately and intentionally being deceitful. And so, no, I don't trust you until you can prove to me that you should be trusted in this particular instance. And if you happen to be right about this, oh, good. Okay, let's evaluate it. And then the next time I'm going to ask you again because I don't trust you.
Yeah. I pulled up a post on Instagram from Candace Owens. And I think when I read this the other day, I thought, man, this is so much at the center of victimhood and not taking responsibility. If you don't mind me sharing this, she says, I'm sick of people saying cops need more training. You had 18 years to teach your kid it's wrong to loot, steal, set buildings on blaze, block traffic, laser people's eyes, overtune cars, and destroy buildings and attack citizens. Who failed who?
I agree with that, but it's a false dichotomy.
I agree. But I like the fact that, like, hey, are like police still need more training? Sure, they do. However, like, more training, why?
Yeah, I get it.
Areas, yeah.
I mean, she's not wrong. I deal with this on social media where I'll make a post about something. I made one the other day about, the world would be better if they had more engaged and honorable fathers in the home. And if you don't have children, then I think you have a responsibility as a man to father somebody.
Yeah.
Not be their daddy. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Father, as in
be a father figure.
Yes. As in advise, coach, counsel, instruct, teach, educate, father them, not a literal father. And the guy's like, well, I disagree because the family court system is this, and some fathers are assholes, and it would be horrible if kids had assholes in their home. I'm like, do you really think that's what I'm talking about, you dumbass?
Yeah.
Do you really think what I'm saying by families need fathers in the home is that society needs a bunch of shitty, alcoholic, abusive fathers? Like, is that really what you think?
Yeah.
And even if it was what you're saying about the family court system or abusive fathers, those are valid points. I think we ought to evaluate the family court system. I think we ought to evaluate the kind of fathers we're going to be. Yes. That's not even the point of what I'm saying right now. And they aren't mutually exclusive. So when I hear things like, well, let's stop talking about police training. Let's talk about personal responsibility. Yeah, I mean, sure. Let's talk about both. They're not mutually exclusive. Both can be true. We can talk about individual responsibility. We've been doing that for 6 years here on this podcast. And also, let's talk about giving our law enforcement officials and officers the tools and the resources and training they need. We can do both, and we should do both.
Yeah, agreed. All right. So I was going to skip this question, but but I'm ignorant to it. So I'm not sure if this is a stupid question or not. Bill, yeah. So let's clarify. We skip your stupid questions. So just if you guys didn't know that.
What I like is how you're like, yeah, I might be ignorant, but it's probably just a stupid question. Well, it could be one or the other. And you're like, it's got to be that it's stupid, not that I'm ignorant about it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm ignorant about it too. Let's hear it.
All right. Bill MB51. Thoughts on the Boston Be a Man guy?
I'm ignorant to that too.
Okay.
Boston Be a Man guy.
Maybe it would be a great discussion point, but I didn't know who the guy was, and I was maybe thinking you would. So
yeah, Boston. What is it? Boston Be a Man guy?
The thoughts on the Boston quote unquote Be a Man guy. So I'm assuming some guy saying be a man in Boston. I don't know. That was on the
all right. I'll tell you, just based on some assumptions, he's probably an asshole, but he's probably right. I could be way off, but I'm curious now to see if I'm close.
Yeah, we'll have to Google this. All right, Mr. Evans, best concealed carry holster company. In your opinion, best concealed.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I like Warrior Poet Society stuff. They've got a lot of firearms stuff, and
I didn't know they made holsters.
Things. I think they've got a couple holsters and some different upgrades and firearms. I don't know.
Yeah. We had a guy, I forgot the company. We had a guy, Freedom Holsters. He was making Order of Man ones for a while.
Dean Kennedy is his name. He made some really cool. Right. I've got a couple from my Glock 43 that I really like with like Order of Man custom camo. So we could link that up because that is a holster that I really like. Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
I think it's like Kennedy Holster Company.
I think it's Kennedy Co. or yeah. So check that out.
All right. Violent by Nature.
I need to reach out to him to see if he can still do Order of Man stuff.
Maybe I know. I guess we should have assumed that.
Yeah. But still, I mean, even if he doesn't, he's got other holsters for just about every firearm out there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Violent by Nature Designs. How do you feel about the whole April 24th bullshit? And this is where I'm like, maybe I should watch the news more often because I have no idea what occurred on the 24th.
I don't either.
Saturday? No. Sorry.
April 24th bullshit?
Yeah, April 24th bullshit. So I'm assuming something happened on the 24th that's bullshit.
That'd be a good assumption.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah. As you can tell, Kip and I are very we're
not up on the times.
Uncultured swine, I would say. I guess is what it is.
I was thinking about it. You know how often I watch TV? Like almost zero.
I don't watch TV. I mean, I might watch a show, but I don't know
like
that I
news. When's the last time you watched the news?
All I see here. So here's what came up on Google.
Hold on. What did you Google?
I put April 24th, and then so I wrote April 24th, and it came up with National Day was the first thing. So I clicked April 24th, National Day, and on April 24th, 4th, you're supposed to observe National Pigs in a Blanket Day. But I don't think that's bullshit. I think that's actually a pretty good idea. Oh, you know what? I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I know what he's talking about. I did hear this because here's the second thing. April 24th origin is I even hesitate to say this because it's so disgusting and despicable. But there was a thing, I think it was on Reddit, that they were referring to April 24th as National Rape Day. Yes. Disgusting.
Okay, I don't even understand the point.
Well, of course, because you're a moral, decent human being. So of course you don't understand that. But yes, I think it was either on TikTok or Reddit or somewhere, somebody had made that claim that April 24th was National Rape Day, and then it kind of gained some traction, and I don't know. Disgusting.
Well, you're right. Bullshit. All right.
For sure.
Bear River
but
Woodcraft.
We don't give that stuff credence either. Like, it's not, again, it comes, it's
even if it was,
I'm telling you,
intended to be funny, it's not funny.
It's not funny. It's not a joke. It's not funny. But again, this comes back to what I was saying earlier. Entertainment and shock value. That's what gets the most attention. If you're entertaining and you can shock people and say stupid shit that maybe you don't even believe, they get attention for that. And so they're dealing in outrage. And this is actually one thing. I listen to a lot of conservative podcasts and radio and things like that. And this is one of the problems I have with it is they draw light to these stupid stories and these stupid people that don't need attention, but they talk about them and they're like, look how dumb this is. Yeah. Stop talking about it. Yeah. You know, those individuals just want attention, and then we give it to them by talking about it, even if we're telling people how horrible it is. But that's exactly what they wanted. So they got what they wanted. And then we just told them that you should do that again because you get what you want.
Yeah. All right. Next question. This guy's, hey, would you ever consider carving a spoon? Have you carved a spoon?
I never have, but I would certainly consider it.
It's very fun.
Is it?
We did. Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Wait, I told you we went camping with the family and we didn't bring any utensils. So I was like, if you want to eat your food, you got to make a spoon.
Cool.
Or suck it out of your cup or whatever. So
yeah,
it was fun.
I don't know. You guys can build your spoons. I'm going to build a canoe. See who does better.
See which one floats.
Who knows?
When you drop the boat, I'll bring my spoon over to Maine and we'll both put it in the water at the same time. I'm like, yeah.
It could go either way for sure.
All right. What else? Jordan loves jiu-jitsu. I wonder what Jordan does on his pastime. Jordan loves jiu-jitsu at Mr. Mickler.
Probably just talks about jiu-jitsu. He probably doesn't actually do it.
Here we go. So what books are you currently reading? And then second question, what rank are you in the jits?
Beginner in jiu-jitsu, I would say, is my rank.
Learning.
Novice.
On the path.
Yes. Punching bag, punching dummy. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. What am I reading? I'm reading a book called they're in my room, but Little and Often by Trent Pressler. He's the podcast we released yesterday as of this release. So that one's really, really good. And then Winning by Tim Grover, because as of the release of this podcast, I recorded a conversation with Tim 2 days ago. As of the recording of this podcast, I'm recording with Tim this afternoon. So those are the two books that I'm reading right now.
Yeah. And then if you guys figure out what day we're actually doing this recording, you get extra, you get a star, a golden star.
Yep. You get a golden star on our little poster board with all your names and everything on it.
Yep. With your participation board.
As far as rank in jiu-jitsu, I am a blue belt, but I don't feel worthy of that most days.
Got the blue. Well, I don't think anybody I shouldn't say it that way. I think most people never feel they deserve the rank in which they have, but
I think that's a good sign. I think if you felt like you deserved it, then that might be a little bit of a warning or a red flag that maybe you need a dose of humility.
Yeah, maybe the ego needs to be crushed by someone on the mats at your gym.
Which will happen, most definitely.
Life bound. Sometimes I think I'm too hard on my boys. Where do you draw the line?
Results.
Good question. Actually, I like this.
It is a good question, but the line is so hard to define
Yeah.
It's at this thing. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's different
and
for
it
every
varies.
kid. And, yeah.
Every kid, every situation's a little different, you know, depending on the child. So there's so many variables, but really it's just about results. Like if you yell and scream and hit, are you producing the right results in your children? No, you're beating them down. You're humiliating them potentially. You're making them feel bad about themselves. And that's not actually serving the purpose. The purpose is to raise confident, self-sufficient little human beings. And so the line is enough discipline, just the right amount, not too much, but the minimum required dose of discipline so that they will learn the lesson that needs to be learned and it will move them towards becoming self-sufficient. Look, I lose my patience. Sometimes I yell. Sometimes I get a little harsh or say something mean that I shouldn't say. I'm not saying I don't do that stuff. I do. And in those moments, I feel bad and I feel guilty, but I really do try to make a conscious effort when I have to discipline my children for whatever reason to remember why I'm disciplining them. It's not because they're annoying. It's not because I can't be
because you're
bothered
mad
right
and
now.
angry. Yeah.
No, it's because I want them to win and I want them to thrive and I want them to succeed. And so you could break a young child. You could break an adult through verbal and emotional abuse and manipulation and the words you're using and the things that you're saying, let alone a child, an impressionable child. So we have to be very, very careful. That's why I say the minimum required dose to produce the effective outcome. And that's hard too, because the effective outcome may be something that will only show and reveal itself in 20 years, not something that's going to reveal itself today. So that also that makes it harder because you want to correct the behavior now. And some of it you can, you know, if my children, for example, get mouthy with their mom, timeout, think about why you're in timeout. Then when you're done, come back. And usually even in, when I put my kids in timeout, I usually don't even set a timer on timeout. Like I don't say, go to your room for 15 minutes because the point is not 15 minutes.
Yeah. The point is when you're ready to come back
Right.
and address the issue correctly.
Or when you're even I've dismissed my children from dinner because they're being gross or crude or disrespectful. And I say, leave your plate here, go sit on the stairs. And when you're ready to be a functioning member of the family, it's up to you. When you're ready to do it, you're welcome to come back to the table and fix the situation and have dinner with us. I usually have to have this conversation with my youngest, Otto. And so he's 5. And so he'll go sit on the table and, you know, he'll be up there for 2 or 3 minutes and he'll holler, I'm ready to come back now. I'm like, good, come on back. And I don't get after him. I don't make him feel stupid or bad. I say,
that was enough.
Yeah, come back to the table. Is there something you would like to tell us? Yes, I'm sorry for X, Y, and Z. Okay, are you ready to be respectful at the dinner table with all of us? Yes. Great. Sit down, start eating.
Yeah.
Again, we have to remember what the purpose is.
I always look forward to an opportunity to quote something that you've said. And I'm sure you appreciate it greatly.
I do. In fact, I'll send you a little extra gift in the mail for this one.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, let's see what I say first. You're like, I didn't say that shit.
Hold up. Well, I'll send you. I said I'll send you a gift, but I didn't tell you what it would be. It's all based on what it is what you're gonna say.
No, you've said this numerous times, and it really opened my mind to this because I realize that sometimes I'll get immediate results and undermine the long-term plan.
Of course.
And you've shared this idea of like, yeah, you can yell at your kids and maybe the room gets cleaned, but pause and say, what do I want them to learn? Not what I want them to do. Right. And so that has helped me a lot because I have to remind myself like, well, okay, actually it's not the room really that I want cleaned. What I want is for them to take care of their things, to be orderly or whatever. And that when I think about it from that perspective, you approach it differently. Like,
right, of course,
my communication is different. Everything is different. So,
yep, play the long game.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess
you will have a nice gift coming in the mail.
Play the long game. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right,
the American Caveman. Oh, this is great. This is what here. I'll pat myself on my own back. So I'm scaling my business and need to find a Kip Sorensen to help me figure out and help me lead it. How do I find this person? Well, my number is
for hire.
So how do you find the right guys to help you lead? what I'm thinking the question is here.
I mean, there's a lot of different ways, you know, if you're going to hire somebody or if you just need somebody to mentor and coach and counsel with. I mean, look, the way that we got connected was a mutual friend, Matt Jenkins, introduced us. You joined the Facebook group. You were going to leave the Facebook group because you thought it was lame or didn't like it initially or something. And then you realized that we had a podcast. So I think you started listening to the podcast. Then you joined the Iron Council and then you became a team leader. And I actually remember vividly we having conversations. I was going to say on walks. That sounds weird. But at events, we would go on hikes and things like that. And I'd be able to have conversations with the team leaders. And I remember vividly talking with you about this stuff. And I acknowledged and recognized that, okay, Kip, this is an asset. This is somebody who's got some things figured out, you know? And so you became a team leader. You became a team leader mentor. Then I realized there's even more that you're capable of doing. I invited you to do this podcast with me because we had a good rapport. You brought something to the table that I didn't. So we have disagreements, always with a level of respect and moving in the right direction, but we don't always see the exact same, which is good. Way.
Yeah.
And so it just, I would say that was more of an organic approach to your involvement here with Order of Man and the Iron Council, which is certainly one way to do it. And so I'm constantly looking for things that people are good at. Oh, this guy seems like Reese. Reese is a great example. Yeah. Very good with the data, very good with the numbers. He likes the processes and systems. And I don't like that stuff. I'm like, no, let's just do it and go. And anecdotally, like, we'll figure out if it's working or not. He's like, no. Like, let's actually pour over the data. I just got what he calls the recon report. Every Monday I get a recon report and it's the data. It's the numbers. Here's where we are. Here's membership. Here's turnover, like everything, which is really valuable for me because I can see it in one snapshot. I'm like, okay, cool. That gives me an idea. Good. And then I look for trends. But he presented himself from my perception as knowing those things. And so we gradually got him involved in one project, then two projects, then made him a more integral part of what we're doing. Drew Kachurik is the same way. Chris Gatchko, who does our events, we were at an event one time in Arizona, meltdown in the desert. Lockdown. I'm so used to saying lockdown. Meltdown in the desert. And it was in the middle of the summer, which is why it was called Meltdown, not Lockdown. And the entire power in the building went off. We were at this event that they were doing. And Chris like sprung into action. He got with the event coordinator. He was on the phone with other hotels and other venues. He was talking with like the power company and the hotel management. And I was like, who's this? Like, I knew Chris a little bit, but not like I do now. And I'm like, what's this guy doing? And he figured everything out. Now, fortunately, if I remember correctly, this was years and years ago. It seems like the power came back on, but he had in a matter of 30 minutes, probably had another venue lined up, had it all taken care of. They were going to do a bunch of comp work for it. Like, it was crazy. And I'm like, ding, light bulb. This guy is very good with logistics. He's very good with planning, and he's proven to be that way in the numerous events that we've run.
You know what I think? I think that all those guys showed up in a particular way because they're fully committed.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, I really do think that those guys are not like, there's no, oh, I'm here to, to feel good about myself, or I want to be a team lead because, I'm kind of a way of propping myself up. I don't think any of those guys are involved for that reason. I think they're fully committed to what this movement is. They're committed to bettering other men, and they're committed to the outcome and the mission that you've set forward. And they're willing to do whatever that is to progress it.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think I'm willing to give that to them, which isn't something I've always been willing to do.
Totally.
But I'm willing to hand it over and say, here, run with this project and we'll see how it goes. Like, I'm not going to give you access to everything and tell you to fix all of it, but take this little piece and we'll see how it goes. And it goes well, or it doesn't go well, maybe. And then, okay, well, good. He handled that well. Let's do something else and let's do another piece of the puzzle. But that's something I've really had to work on because I didn't want to relinquish control over that.
Against your nature a little bit.
Totally. Yeah. I want to be involved in everything. I want to have my hand in everything. I want to be a decision maker. Again, I want to be significant, right? So if I have somebody else do it, that's at direct odds with what I want of myself to be significant. Because if Kip does it, then Kip's significant and I'm not. And I'm realizing that if you're significant in this movement, and Chris and Drew and Reese and everybody else is significant, then that is actually getting what we want, not necessarily what I want. That's moving the mission
Bigger
forward,
purpose.
which is more important to me.
Yeah. I could see that.
Outside of that, you can just hire somebody, so that's
pay them a lot. There you go. All right. Last question. So, and I'm kind of teeing this up. So G Brandon 29, next father and son event.
That will be, my wife and I were talking about it this past weekend when we were going to Home Depot, and that will be mid-September. We'll have the dates probably this week or early next week. So we'll get that to you guys. It's a legacy event. orderofman.com/legacy is where you can sign up. It isn't there right now, but it will be end of this week, beginning of next week. But mid-September. And then early October, we're going to do a main event. That's 100 men. The legacy event's a father and son, 20 fathers, 20 sons. I've got my neighbor who's also a contractor coming over in the next couple of weeks to install some railing in the barn. So that way that'll all be taken care of, and you and your sons won't fall out of the second story of my barn, which would be
100 feet and die when you're
yes. And then, the main event will be early October, which is a beautiful time to be out here. And that's 100 guys. So those are coming online. I'll let you guys know.
Cool. Stay tuned.
Yep.
And our ask today as we wrap up. So we've talked about the Iron Council. To learn more about the Iron Council, our exclusive brotherhood, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council, where we have a new month starting in May. And our topic for that month is designing your mind. So if you're interested in banding with us, once again, that's orderofman.com/Iron Council. And then for you guys that are getting ready or need to work on your goals, the Battle Planner app is available within the Apple Store and Play Store. To learn more, go to weekbattleplanner.com to get that application for your mobile devices.
That's right. So guys, check it out. Great questions today. Appreciate that. Sorry I couldn't get to them all when I did that a couple of days ago. Again, I didn't realize how many questions we would get, but I do appreciate the level of interest. We got a lot of work to do. So what I said earlier about sharing this work, not only so you can help the men in your life because they need help, your brother, your dad, your cousins, your friends, colleagues, coworkers, they need assistance. We need to band together as men. That's important. But again, it allows us to throw some of our weight around, which is not a bad thing. That's the purpose of community. We band together, we get to throw some of our weight around and secure some of these guests, which I hope will serve you. That's the point. I bring these guys on, I ask them hopefully somewhat intelligent questions, gather their responses, give that information to you so that you can improve your life. So help me help you by sharing this mission and putting it out there. We need it now, I think more than ever. So anyways, Kip, appreciate you as always, brother. Guys, we'll be back on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.